Episode 20, Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum, as some know him. Thank you for coming on my show. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Also, I wanted to say happy International Podcast Day. I bet you didn't know today was International Podcast Day.
See, you're more professional on podcasts than I am, man. I feel like I'll just be winging it, man.
That one actually just flashed on my screen. I don't know why. Some notification from some news app I got. I don't know.
That's
But
hilarious.
anyways, brother, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's been tomorrow to be 3 weeks since
Yeah.
Charlie's his assassination. And so I know it's still very early, and the fact that you guys are still out there fucking marching, kind of being hit from all sides. Everybody's got so many question marks, and we'll get into that. I mostly just wanted to get to know you a little bit. I know I met you at the UFC fight, and we hit it off, but everything's surface level at those kind of events. So I just wanted to get to know you a little bit and allow my viewers to get to know you. Like who are you? What's your background? If you want to fill them in.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks. And that UFC fight was a blast, man. I tell you that every time I go, it's awesome. So for people that don't know me, I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm a Texas boy, and I play football. Was literally what I thought my future would be, is just playing football. I was an All American. I played in the U.S. Army All American game. I was a top player in the nation coming out of high school. Had scholarships everywhere, and I ended up going to University of Arizona specifically to play for Coach Mike Stoops. Ended up going there, leaving home, and it changed my life, to be honest. Leaving the hood, neighborhood I grew up in, leaving that environment, that lifestyle. So yeah, I went to school at Dunbar High School and right in Stop Six, which is the hood. But getting out of that environment, man, going to college was a game changer for me. It was eye opening for me. It was culture shock because I had never been around that many white people before. So, and growing up in the all black community, you think that white people don't like you, and racism and all this crazy stuff that was, filtered in my mind. Then when I got to college, I mean, everything changed. I was like, well, wait a minute. White people ain't really tripping like that. Matter of fact, some of my white friends I like better than some of my black friends. So,
Mm.
that was a pretty interesting change for me. Football didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I thought I was gonna start and go straight to the league, first round draft pick, and
Mm.
I kind of got in the doghouse. I had a bad attitude. I was still living that gangster lifestyle, trying to translate it into college. Man, I had gold teeth in my mouth. I got Young Savage tattooed across my stomach, and I just was a knucklehead a little bit when I was a freshman. Didn't understand the value of coaching and different things like that. And then my coaches were also a-holes. They would scream at you, call your names. And I wasn't used to a grown man talking to me like that. So it kind of went south for me, when I first got to college. But I did get saved when I was in college, gave my life to Christ and was baptized and all that other stuff. And that also had a tremendous change in my life. And although I thought after that football would turn around for me and God would do this miracle, and that's not what God had for me. And so the last year, even though I didn't play in college, I still was in the NFL draft. I was the Oakland Raiders were going to draft me. They told my agent they're going to draft me in the 6th or the 7th round. I'll be the only safety that they draft. And on draft day, I threw a party, which was the second day of the draft because it was the later rounds. But I still threw a party. My whole family was there. 5th round came. They picked kind of out of order. 6th round came. They picked a corner. And I was like, okay, they're not going to pick me in the 6th. And then my agent called me and said, man, I don't know what they're doing. They picking out of order. I think they're going to pass on you, man. And in the 7th round, they picked the safety out of Michigan, and it broke my heart. I mean, I literally ripped my
Mm.
shirt off. I remember going to the front yard, ripping my shirt off. I was crying. I was embarrassed, man. My whole family was there. They I don't know if they were thinking I was a meal ticket or not, but I'm sure they were excited that I was going to go to the NFL, and it
Mm.
didn't happen, man. And so the following year, I tried out again. A whole bunch of controversy happened. The NFL lockout happened. I mean, it was almost a sign from God that I shouldn't play in the NFL. And I needed a job, man. At the time, I had a young son. He wasn't born yet, but he's about to be born. And I was like, dude, I need to get a job. This football, I'm not playing arena football. I'm not going to Canada, and it's not working out for me. And I had a mentor of mine, was an incredible guy, John, and he told me, man, he's a multimillionaire. He said, you know what? The average life of a football player in the league is like 3.5 years. Unless you're Tom Brady, you ain't making no real money compared to what he was making. So he said, I make more than Tom Brady do every year for the rest of my life. And so don't get caught up in the money. Don't get caught up in thinking that's the only thing God has for you. So I applied for everything in the city of Tucson because that's where I lived. And the police department came up. You know, they were paying good. They had good benefits. So I applied. I never thought about being a cop. I didn't want to be a cop. My only experience with cops were not always good, rumored bad. But then I got arrested when I was 8 years old by the police for smoking marijuana in a vacant house with my cousins. And it was like 7 of us.
When you were 8?
I was 8. I stopped smoking weed at 8.
Jesus Christ. That's
When I was 7, because we would smoke with my older cousins. You know, with my
what is
daddy.
that?
Because
Wait, time out. What kind of effect does weed have on an 8-year-old's mind? Like,
I mean, now I think it's the reason I can't remember nothing. But at the time, dude, it was like, you know, we used to smoke. So this is how it happened. You know, my cousins then weren't as fortunate. You know, they were kind of poor. And so my dad would give us money so they didn't have to pay for us to eat when we would go over to the house. And of course, my older cousin would take the money, go buy some weed with it and give us the money back. He could have been skimping us out. We didn't know how much weed cost. So we would smoke weed with them, man. And it was just, you just felt dizzy, man. I remember just feeling dizzy in the room spinning, and that was getting high. And I remember I used to do this one thing. It was crazy. And if you saw me, it'd be funny. But like when I remember being young, sitting on the floor at my auntie house and just high as a kite, man. And I used to do my lips like this. And my lips felt like they were this big, dude. And so I thought my lips were just massive. So that's the effect of an 8-year-old smoking weed. And of course, my dad and them didn't know. You know, we would just sneak over there and get high and then come home, you know, and try to make sure our clothes didn't smell like weed. And but we got arrested. It was at a vacant house. My cousin then brought us to the house, and we knew someone, right? You know, it was needles on the ground, but we were like, look, let's just smoke. We went to the back room. We was smoking Black and Miles, getting ready to roll the blunts. And I remember my oldest cousin was like, I hear something, man. I hear something in the background. We're like, dude, quit being scary. Like, you just ain't nobody coming. Oh man, that was a lie. They came in like the SWAT team, dude. They came through the window. They came through the front door. They had their guns drawn on us. I mean, it was crazy. And
were
they
you
ended up
guys
taking.
all around the same age?
No, it was progressive. Like, so I was the youngest at 8. My cousin was 9, my brother was 10, and then it went up from there, 14, 16, 14, 15, 16. And it was one of my cousins. He was actually my cousin's friend. He was 17. So we all went to juvie. He went to jail. He went to the big boy jail. And they started out by piling us all in one car. You know, when they took us from the scene, they took us to a parking lot to get our info, and they had 6 of us in one car. I mean, they had all us sitting, and then they laid one guy across, and we were all handcuffed. And they were calling us sardines. They were joking. They were laughing at us and stuff. And anyway, it's a long story. We ended up going to juvie, and my dad came to get us out that night, and it was a nightmare. You know, I thought my dad was gonna murder us because I live in the era where we used to get whoopings. And thank God he didn't whoop us because he was too mad. So that was like my first interaction with cops. And so when I was an adult, you know, I didn't really have much interaction with cops. But man, I needed a job. And I'll tell you this, since it's a longer podcast, I can explain it. I remember when they called me the night before, me and my son's mom got into a big old argument over the phone. I mean, I think it was about the engagement ring, because I think we were breaking up, and I'm like, you can give me that ring back so I can take it back, get my money from Jewelers, because I had, you know, I had a credit line or something. And we had a big old argument, man. And it was, you know, we yelling on the phone, all that stuff. And then the next day, the police called me. And in my mind, when they called, I said, did she call the police on me? You know, I'm like, this girl didn't call the police on me over an argument over phone. But then I almost hung up on them. But then I listened to them, and they're like, hey, you applied for the job. Are you still interested? And I'm like, oh crap, yeah, I'm still interested. And so when they offered it to me, I was like, you know, I need to finish the paperwork process, but I didn't know nothing about being a cop. So I said, let me do a ride along and see if this is something I really want to do before I commit to this. And man, I did a ride along with Sean Payne. I'll never forget him. He's one of the greatest men that I ever met. White dude. You know, I pull up on him I had a Grand Marquis with 24-inch wheels on it. And so I looked like a gangbanger pulling up on him, you know what I'm saying? And he tell me the story now that he thought I was pulling up on him like I'm gonna rob him or something. And I remember the look on his face, man. He looked over at me like, what you doing, bro? And I'm looking at him like, hey, can I do a ride along, man? And he was cool enough, man. He was like, come tomorrow, you know, come to the briefing, and we'll do a ride along together. And that ride along changed my life, dude. I couldn't believe what cops did. Like we started out, we changed the flat tire of an elderly lady. And at first I was like, this is easy. You know what I mean? Like, this is all we do. I can do this. Man, the next call was a suicidal person. So we drove code 3 to this apartment complex. And I'm telling you, we were going like 75 miles per hour down a residential street. We almost died a couple times because people don't know how to move to the right. And we going through lights, and it was crazy, man. And like just to drive over there was just crazy. And then we get there, and they forced entry. They let me stand by the staircase. They forced entry. And then I walked up after they kicked the door in, and I saw the guy in there. He was a young guy. It was weird because they were knocking on the door, and he briefed me. He's like, have you ever seen somebody get killed? Because they thought he killed himself. So they're like, do you ever seen somebody get shot? You know, we want to brief you because this may be what you see, because they're not answering the door. But then when they forced entry, it was a bunch of young people sleeping on the floor, like a pallet, like they were doing a sleepover. And then there was one kid in the back. He's sitting at a table, and he got a knife, and he's cutting his wrist. And Sean Payne was able to negotiate him to drop the knife. And then they end up taking him to the crisis response center. But then me and Sean get back in the car, and I'm flustered, dude. I'm like, my heart is racing. I can't think. I'm just still shocked at all this stuff I've seen and driving over there and everything. And Sean got in the car, and he was like, hey, man, what were you saying about your mom? And I was blown away. I'm like, how did this guy go from doing all of that and he now just calm like it never happened? And I remember asking him, I said, Sean, y'all do this every day? And he like, oh, do we do this every day? And then at that moment, bro, I was like, dude, I want to be a hero like Sean, man. This football stuff is like, you play games, you lose, you know, all this stuff. But this dude is life and death every day. And therefore, I was inspired, man. And I said, I'm going to finish the process. Became a cop. Did it for about 6.5 years. I was on the SWAT team. I was a field training officer. I was a spokesperson for the police department for a year. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, man. It was great. I never thought about leaving the police department. I wanted to be a chief one day. My dad was the chief of the fire department in Fort Worth. So I was kind of inspired to go down that path. And then I got political, man. I was a Democrat. I voted for Barack Obama, and I thought I was a Democrat. And all the dudes on the squad is like, dude, you're not a Democrat. Like, it doesn't align with what you say you believe. Like, you're a Christian, you believe in low taxes. You know, you need to look at the Republican side. Because I had never thought about a Republican. I thought they were just racist white people, and the Democrats are for the blacks. And so I began to be political. In 2015, 16, Donald Trump came to Tucson to do a rally. And Ben Carson was my guy, but he dropped out and endorsed Trump. So I was like, that's kind of weird, but let me see what Trump's talking about. Give him a fair shot. You know, everybody's saying he's racist and all this. Let me just see what it's like. And then I also wanted to see Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was a celebrity at the time before everybody hated him. And went there, man. I was inspired, man. Everything he said was everything that I believed in, everything I wanted to see for the country. And I messed around and made a video about it. And I wasn't a social media guy. I never made videos, nothing. I didn't have a following. I just wanted to make a video to express all the crazy stuff I saw at the rally. And, you know, I was working the night shift, so I went to sleep after making the video, never thought about it. Woke up, I had 35 missed calls. I thought I missed my shift. I ain't know what happened, dude. I ain't think about that video. And I saw that Fox News called me, Sean Hannity's show called me, and the police department called me. So I called them back, and they were like, hey, it's some video you put out, and like the BBC want to interview you. And I'm like, dude, at the time, I couldn't think of what they were talking about. I'm like, what video did I put out online? And then I remembered the Trump rally. And apparently Trump had shared it. And I think I was one of the first black police officers that like came out and was like, I support Trump, or at least something that was supportive of Trump. And then it went on from there, man. I just kept making videos as a cop when I was off duty. Made a video in 2017 about Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the national anthem. That video got 70 million views. And there was a company in Anthem they called a Conservative Tribune. And they said, hey, man, we saw your videos, dude. You're viral. We want to offer you a position to come and be the spokesperson for our Conservative Tribune for a year. We can sign you a year contract. If you like it, you can do it. If you don't like it, you can go back and be a cop. And at that point, I said they were paying me $20,000 more a year than I was making as a cop. And they actually bought all of my social media at the time for $30,000, $34,000. And I was only making $45,000 a year as a cop. So, dude, it was like something I couldn't refuse. I said, let me just go try it and get all this money. And if I don't like it, I go back to being a cop. And I just made, I don't know, $50,000-$60,000 in a year, which was my police salary, more than my police salary. But then I met Candace Owens, I met Charlie Kirk, and you know, that company almost went out of business, so they had to lay me off. Actually, they said, "Can you can stay for a year because we promised it, but if you leave now, we'll give you back all your social media that we purchased from you without you paying us back, and you can go on." And that was a God thing for me, man, because I sold all my social media. Right now, my social media is worth hundreds of millions of dollars potentially.
Wow.
And so when I left them and I went to Turning Point with Candace and Charlie, and from 2017 on, man, I've been working with Charlie and them, and I built my platform.
So what was it like to meet those like Candace and Charlie back in the day? What was that,
Yeah,
2017?
yeah, 2017. Yeah, that was before Candace blew up, and Charlie wasn't really
Yeah.
that big of a deal either, right? So we were all just starting out. Candace was still called Red Pill Black. Nobody even knew her as Candace Owens, and she was just making YouTube videos. And she reached out to me on TikTok. I mean, on X, well, it was Twitter back then. And she like, "Hey, I love your stuff. Let's collab. Let's do some stuff together." And so, funny story, man. Most people had never heard this story, but like we said, let's meet. I was in Phoenix. Candace came to Phoenix. I think she had family out here, and I'm thinking me and Candace gonna go to a dinner and meet and talk. Well, she invited me to a dinner with her whole family. And so, dude, I'm at this table with her dad, her uncles, and everybody. And we literally debated about politics till they closed the restaurant. I mean, it was 3 people on the conservative side, 3 people on the left. And me and Candace was just going at it the whole time, man. And so,
Who won? Who won that
no,
argument?
no, we did. Me and Candace were on the conservative side against her family. So
I hope so.
we smoked them, to be honest. So and it was in good faith. Everybody had a good time after that. And me and Candace became really close. And then that's right before they laid me off on that other job, or at least I took the layoff option. And then I went with Charlie, and Charlie was this young dude. I mean, he 8 years younger than me. So he was still his early 20s. He just ambitious as a mud, man. That he was just doing everything. He was flying here, flying there, fundraising, speaking here, doing, that he was just awesome, man. And it inspired me for that young dude to be so fiery. And it really inspired me to kill it, man. So when I was at Turning Point, I did 22 universities my first year, and we just went from there.
How many universities do you guys cover in a year?
Well, amongst everybody, it could be hundreds, because Charlie was doing his own thing. Candace and Charlie actually did their own thing at the time because they were paired up, and then I would just do some of the one off. And like the first year and a half, or maybe year and a half, I did 22 of them by myself. So we probably
By
did that
yourself.
back in 2017. We probably did about 70 universities. Now it's hundreds. I mean, Charlie probably go to, I don't know. He don't go with as many. He just do the big ones. And I do about 17 a year myself. And then they have other people doing university events. And then they have university chapters doing their own events without speakers. So, I mean, it's thousands of them a year that's actively doing events and tabling and stuff all year long.
And what kind of operation is that? Like, if you guys are going to go visit, University of Texas here in Austin, what kind of operation is that as far as an undertaking? How many bodies are you using? How many support personnel, security? Like, how many days in advance are you planning for each event? Are you just showing up the day of?
Dude, I don't know if I want to say this. Now, Charlie, his stuff is different. Like, Charlie had 12 people guarding him everywhere he went. I don't know if it was everywhere, but at the events, he had about 12 special op guys. I mean, some of them paramilitary, they're military, police, some special ops. That he had a whole bunch of like real ones guarding him. I was going out there naked, man. There was no preparation. I got out the car, walked through the campus by myself to the table. And if somebody wanted to get jiggy, I was going to have to fight. Now, sometimes they have police officers just, standing around, maybe 1 or 2. And that was kind of the routine for everybody other than Charlie. Now, Charlie had a whole thing set up, and he had video team. He had security follow him everywhere he went, from the car to the airport, through the airport to the venue, drivers. I mean, he was pretty secured when he would go.
Let's just move on a little bit. I want to rewind back to what you were talking about. You found faith while you were in college. What led you to that? Because you grew up in the hood. Okay, so you grew up in the hood. You're rolling around on, what'd you say, 24-inch rims.
Yeah.
You got a gold grill, and then you go to college to play football, which you would think you would get more kind of engrossed into that environment.
No, no, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, you know, I probably would have gotten worse if I actually played, right? If I was a starter, I was a star, I think I wouldn't never went to church. You know, what happened to me, and you got to think, when you grow up in Texas, you play football, you go to church. Even if you believe in it or not, you go to church. Nobody don't go to church. You crazy if you don't go to church. Whether you poor, whether you rich, you go to church when you grew up in Texas. So my life was going to church. You know, we went to church all the time when I was young. So when I got to college, of course, it was my first freedom. So, you know, I'm acting out, you know what I'm saying? The girls out there, you know, so I'm being wild. But football, when it was going south, man, I like got depressed, man. I was losing it. I was like, I couldn't believe it. You know, I'm a star and I'm sitting on a bench, you know, watching everybody play. I'm feeling humiliated. I'm feeling like my life is over, you know. And one thing that I said, I was like, man, I need to go back to church. I need to. I was really trying to figure out where I'm gonna do next, and God was like one of those things where I'm like, let me see if God is even real, man, in my life. You know, I'm grown now. My dad ain't making me go to church, so that's kind of what started it, man. I just wanted to. I was like, let me go to church and figure this out, man, because I'm really at a low place. And that's exactly where God get a lot of us. You know, and when you're at a low place and you feel like you had nowhere to go, you go
Mhm.
seek God, and it happens for you, man. And it changed my life.
Do you have any like specific instances in your life where you felt God speak to you or through you?
Yeah, yeah. When I was younger, my mama used to do this for me because I don't know where if you're familiar with Texas, if you lived in Texas at all, but you know, it's
Yeah,
tornadoes that come
right here
through
in
Texas
Austin,
all the
buddy.
time, and so we always have tornado season. And when I was a young kid, dude, I was terrified of tornadoes. I mean, my stomach would drop. I'd just be terrified. And my mom used to give me a Bible, and she'd say, "Hold this Bible, and God will protect you." And so when the tornado would come, I'd go in the closet and hold my Bible, and I felt peace when as a young kid, man. And I aced it. And so that Bible was everything to me. Like I would not lie and put my hand on the Bible. So anytime I try to lie, my mom would say, "Put your hand on the Bible, and then tell me what you said." And I'd be
Wow.
like, "No, I ain't doing it. I lied, mama." So that was like really impactful to me growing up. And when I made the decision to go to Arizona, I thought that was God too, because I prayed about it and I wasn't going to go to Arizona because they were losers, right? They were losing. And I'm coming from
Mhm.
a team. We had 9 D1 athletes on our team. 4 of us were All Americans, and we win almost every game. When we get spanked in the playoffs, when we play those country teams, you know, like you see on Friday
Mhm.
Night Lights, like that stuff wasn't a joke. Like you go out and
Oh
play
yeah.
Brownwood, Stephenville, you playing these, you know, we didn't play Odessa or Midland, but it was the same sentiment, dude. Football was a serious deal in the country.
Oh
We were
yeah.
inner city boys, so we had athletes, but we weren't big like they were. So we get deep in the playoffs and they spank us, man. And so, but we weren't. I wasn't on a losing team. You know, we were winners. And Arizona was losing. I wanted to go to University of Texas, but they didn't offer me a scholarship, which was shocking to me. But they offered my brother the year before. He was an All-American cornerback, and they had offered like 5 All-Americans in their DB class that year. So they didn't offer a single defensive back in 2005. And so that was a big hit for me. But I was like, I'm gonna go to Miami or something. I want to be like Sean Taylor. I was like, I'm gonna go to Miami or Florida or somewhere. And my coach, man, he was like my ride or die, man. It's a long story. He wasn't my head coach. He's my position coach. Because my head coach was ride or die. White dude from Nebraska with a dip in his mouth, cuss you out. We used to get hit with paddles. If you cussed in a locker room, he
Yeah.
would take you in his office and paddle you. Today, he would get crucified. Because a white man whooping black kids with a paddle is never gonna be, you know what I'm saying? But back
Yeah.
then, he loved us, man. He was a part of the family. And Coach Jones didn't play. And so he ended up my junior year. He ended up transferring to a school in Houston, and we all cried like babies. We got a new coach in who was black, and he was a nut. He hated me. He was jealous of me, and I hated his guts. But my DB coach, he was my dog. So one day he came to me and was like, "Man, have you ever thought about Arizona?" Now you think as an All-American athlete, and people may not know this, when you're a top player in the nation, you get so many letters. I had a Tupperware. I don't know how big I could describe it. I mean, it had to be like 5 feet from the ground, maybe 50, not 15 feet, maybe like I don't know, like 8 feet long, full of letters, university senior letters
Wow.
all day. So he said, "Have you ever thought about Arizona, man? Like they got a thing going, man. Like they got Coach Stoops from Oklahoma. He's a defensive mind. They got Coach Mark Stoops, who was the defensive back coach when Sean Taylor, Ed Reed, Philip Buchanan, Mike Rump, all them dudes played at Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back into my letters and I started looking up Arizona, and their defense improved double. They improved double in their stats. So that means half of the yards that they gave up before Stoops got there, it was cut in half. They had two dudes that were top safeties. One was a Thorpe Award finalist. And so it was like lining up for me to go there. And so I ended up, he ended up convincing me, and I prayed about it. And I feel like God was like, Arizona's the place, man. And so I went on my visit and I committed. And then after that, God had used me a lot after that. But that was before I got saved.
I was going to ask you, what's your mission now with your faith, like in your platform that you have?
Yeah, my mission is just to be a godly man with boldness, courage, and to incorporate my faith in everything I talk about. So when it comes to politics, when it comes to community stuff, like, social issues, I weave godly principle into the things that I'm saying, the critiques that I give, and also the way I vote. I kind of weave that in. And I speak a lot to church. I speak at churches, and I do a lot of events like that on the Christian side too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I wanted to talk to you because I have a military background. I've been working in executive protection for the last 5 years, but I have 8 years in the military before that. And I know you had 6 years in law enforcement. So like I look at it as like brothers in this world, right? We're fighting overseas, you guys are fighting here. So when people are saying like thank you for your service, I'm like, go tell a cop that. Like you guys are fighting every single day on these streets. And so like with all this stuff happening, it's like every week there's another shooting. There's just been a couple more here in the last few days. It's like, where do you see this going as a country? Like from our perspective, from our backgrounds, where do you see this heading? Do you see a solution at all? Because I see a lot of people that are pointing out the obvious, and it's like, yeah, I get it. There's another shooting. I get it, but nothing's changing. Like I haven't seen a single solution offered that can fix any of this. We have all these mental health issues. Some people are blaming it on gun control, but nobody's provided a solution. Like, do you see a way that you can use your platform to kind of like put a dent in this? Because it's just getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, man, because there is a solution to the problem with this, and it all stems back from a solution-based, constitutionally protected avenue, and that is banning guns is not going to do anything. We're past that point. There's over 300 million guns in this country. You can't get rid of them. So what we need to do is start acting reasonably about how do we protect people that have mental health issues and make sure that they don't get guns, and also protect the facilities that we want to be protected. I mean, let's just be honest about this. These schools getting shot up because they have nobody there to protect the kids. These killers aren't going to heavily armed places. Often they're going to gun-free zones. They're going to places where people are vulnerable, where they can't defend themselves. Going to college campuses. They're going into a church where you ram the car through the thing, and nobody there got a gun. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people are, in some cases, they're kind of complacent on the topic. So my solution to the problem would be not to ban guns. That's the criminals are going to still have them, bro. Trust me. All these switches and these gangsters have all these guns. I mean, they're not supposed to have guns in the first place, bro. That's already against the law. They prohibited possessors. That means felons that shouldn't have a gun. They still got guns. Most of the ones that are doing crimes are illegally in possession of guns. So that's not going to help. But what we need to do is we need to start targeting this mental health crisis that we have in our country. The last two church incidents, I believe, were veterans. And I don't know for whatever reason that some of these veterans did what they did, but there's a PTSD element to people who come back from war and fought for this country that are not being served. So people are letting these people go out. They're having mental crisis and nobody's helping them. So they begin to devolve, and who knows? They supplement it with substances, illegal substances. They're drinking. They're losing it. The suicide rate amongst military personnel that come back from war or come back from the military or retire is outrageous, dude. It's like 22 people a day. And we're not effectively challenging those things. And that's not just it, because that's veterans. But then you have the mental health associated with people who are trans and people who are non-binary and all of these things. And so we're not addressing that issue. If we address that issue, we'll better be able to serve people before they go crazy, or deter them from going crazy enough to want to kill massive amounts of people. And the third
Mm-hmm.
option would be securing the facilities. It's not that hard to have one entry exit, a point of entry to in and out of one area, so they can't access a building from multiple areas, and then have people who are armed on campus, having police officers who are armed. I mean, not police officers, but teachers who are trained and certified to be able to carry a gun. Then you'll see less people trying these schools because they're going to get shot. And you and I both know cowards don't want to face gunfire. Cowards want to go where nobody's going to, combat them. And
Mm-hmm.
here's a statistical data point that people should know. There has never been a shooting at a school that has security and they allow teachers to carry in the history of this country. That has never been the case. So we need to fortify these schools, have better security outside of personnel. I mean, with technology and barriers and stuff like that, lock the doors. Like in Uvalde, I mean, the kid just walked into school. The door was ajar or broken, and he walked into school and killed all those kids with no resistance. And so fortifying the facility is one, which shouldn't cost a lot of money. And the government can subsidize schools to fortify their facilities. And then also having armed people on campus to mitigate the fallout. I mean, just imagine if you had a couple of armed people with AR-15s on that church campus. When the dummy blows through the building, you got some people that's there ready to cause some violence. And they can't get as far. And I'm not saying there weren't people on that campus, but I'm saying those things are deterrents. It's not going to eliminate it, but there are deterrents.
Yeah, I'm with you. I always thought they should be putting a little bit more money into something in those rooms. I mean, you don't have to have $1 billion, fucking ticket to fortify some of these places, but in every room there should be a safe closet with bulletproof doors that, has, communications, like a central communication link to each room, and where if something goes down, they should be able to usher those kids into a single room that cannot be opened from the outside and cannot be shot through. I mean, why
Yeah,
not? We
and
put so much money into so much stuff.
they can have some type of maybe not a chemical agent or something, but they lock the kids in the rooms. The person who's shooting is going to have to go through common corridors, and they could have something that just flushed out of the sky, like a smoke alarm. I mean, like a water system, sprinkler system. When a fire hit, it just douses the areas to put out the fire. Not in the classroom, but in some of the common areas, they can have a solution the same way. Where if they have a threat like that, the principal or somebody can push a button and it can create smoke or douse something. I wouldn't say smoke, but it can douse some of these areas with a chemical agent or something like that. Even if it wasn't chemical, something to be a deterrent. Somebody walking through and it just flashing on them. I mean, they can blindly shoot, but they won't be able to get into these classrooms and as easily as one would if it's just no deterrent at all.
Yeah.
And they can
Brandon,
link that into the sprinkler system.
Have you ever seen any like corporate security, like Apple level security? Have you ever been to one of those tactical like operations commands?
No, I not that I
Security
know of.
operations
I've
commands?
been to places that are heavily secured and they're very like, I've been to
Yeah.
churches and stuff that have been secured. I've been
Yeah.
to events that have been secured, but I have never been to like one of these corporate buildings and see their
When
level
you
of
get a
security.
chance, maybe next time you're in Austin, I'll take you for a tour of the Apple campus here in Austin. They have three like global operations commands that manage security for all of the Apple retail locations, campuses. Like any Apple location is monitored by a system. It's called Follow the Sun, and so when the sun is like rises on your part of the world, that operational command picks up watch for the entire planet. Okay. And I always thought that they should implement something like this for schools as best as they could. But basically, what it does, that operations command has the power to control uh, remote locks around the entire planet. So they're monitoring all like police feeds. They have like sources around the planet that live around those areas that they can entrust, because sometimes you'll get news that there's a shooting in the area of an Apple store from a source or the public before the police actually put anything out, right? So they have a huge global network. So anytime something happens, they also have access to all the video footage for all those stores all over the world. They can not only see what's going on in real time, but they can control all the locks, all the hallways. So if there's an active shooter that's near their campus, in Beijing and here in Austin, they pick up on it. they're already communicating with police officers, and they're locking down everything. So they can basically funnel the shooter to a certain area where they can tell the police they can intercept him, and they can keep
Yeah,
everybody safe. It's just
yeah. I
it's
think
so advanced, it's so intelligent what they're doing, and it's like, why don't we use this shit for our kids?
It's pretty apparent from watching the news today. Violent criminals are not going away anytime soon, and you need to have somebody watching your back. Whether that's you personally, your family, your friends, or your business, Iconic Security is our premier personal protection firm, founded by a former Navy SEAL, a former Secret Service agent, and a former U.S. attorney. With over 60 years of combined military, law enforcement, and intelligence experience, we deliver unmatched, discreet security tailored to your needs. From executive protection and secure nights out to residential patrols, event security, cyber threat defense, and expert consulting, Iconic ensures your safety with precision and care. No shortcuts, no drama, just peace of mind. Visit iconicsecurity.com to build your custom protection plan today. Iconic Security, because your safety is non-negotiable. A link to the website can be found in the description of this podcast. Thank you for your time, and stay safe out there.
Yeah, I think that it would be nearly impossible to do that on the scale of getting every school protected. But I think on a
But
small
you could
local
do
level,
state
they can
by
do.
state.
Yeah, they can do something. I mean, right?
Yeah.
They may not have to be globally doing it like that because in the reality, 99.9% of schools will never experience a school shooting, right? It seems like it's a lot because we see it and it's very graphic and it's evil and everybody hates it. But most schools will never experience a school shooting. So the funding to do something like that would be very difficult to justify. However, they can do something. They can take something from that book, right? Even if it's just a school district by district can control lockdown, and they have a security person that monitors that. Maybe 3 people on shift that monitors it 24/7, or not 24/7, but only the hours that the kids are at the school. I mean, it's not that hard. So they can do a smaller version of that where they have a central command in the district, and the district handles each district, right? I mean, each district handle their own schools. And to be honest, in each district, there's only like 7 schools. And so if on a micro level, they could probably do something like that. They may, it's, the deterrent is that they need armed people on the campus, and they need to be able to funnel a shooter in a way in which would be advantageous for law enforcement. So cameras set up, like you mentioned, that's easy to do. They can have cameras on every hallway that can be tapped into by local law enforcement or some security force that's run by the state. And therefore, they can do exactly what you're saying. Oh, they see a shooter, and they can give play-by-play to the dispatcher. Oh, we locked all the doors. Okay, the shooter is going up the hallway this way and that way, and it can be an instant command communication, and that's not as hard to do. You get what I'm saying? And so
it removes the controller away from the scene, because imagine most of these security central operations commands, they're probably right there next to the principal's office somewhere.
Right.
Where's the first place the shooter's going to go when he walks into that school? He's going to walk straight into the office. Okay, so that's what he's going for. So now you have somebody that's under massive duress. Their heart is beating out of their chest, and you're expecting them to make a sane decision in that moment. Like, that's never going to work in any real scenario. It's never going to work. These principals, secretaries, vice principals, whatever, they're not trained to deal with crises like that. But if you had somebody remotely monitoring these schools, and then they get tipped off, hey, there's something going on over here at this school. Now all their attention is focused on the school at one time. Now they can manage all the pieces while these people just worry about staying safe.
Right.
That's just my
I agree
opinion.
with you, man, because if people pay attention, you can see it coming. Right. It's not like a shooter is like, now let's put some stats out here so people can be aware of this, because I studied this for a while. Majority of the school shootings are conflicts between 2 students. So a lot of times people conflate numbers. Majority of the shootings that go on is because a student gets mad at another student and they end up in a conflict between the 2 students. Or most of the shootings are in parking lots at the school. So most of it is not school active shooters. Now, the active shooters do happen, and a lot of people, they get a lot more of attention, but it's not as often as the shooters are going door to door and killing all the kids. So I just want people to understand that, so they get a little bit of peace when they look at the numbers, because they go out and put the numbers out and they go, it's been 200 school shootings this year. And it's like, well, no, not all of them are the shootings that we think, the active shooter or multiple casualty situation. So that's not often happening. However, monitoring the school for the active shooter participant should be something that's surveilled while the kids are at school. In Uvalde, you see the kid crash down the street. The police officer calling in, there's a crash. But then the person monitoring with cameras can see him walking onto campus with an AR-15. And you can shut the school down immediately. And you know that he's coming. You know, when somebody's going to a church and they ram through the building, it's like, no, lock it down. This is what's happening. They got visual of what's going on. And I think you made a really good point, because people that have been in any tactical environment understand you cannot be too close. You got to have a 30,000 viewpoint if you're going to be tactically making decisions. You can't be in the fight. You in the fight, you don't have, you don't have the big picture in mind. You just isolated. And these teachers and stuff that have never been in a fist fight before is now in an active shooting with an AR-15 banging through the hallways. I mean, terror and fear override their motor skills and their cognitive thinking. They're not going to be able to function properly. So, and we can also create a national veterans program, right? Where so veterans can have the opportunities to do some patrols at the school. Obviously those who are approved. You don't want a veteran with PTSD patrol the school, but or PTSD that's affecting them in that way. But you can have a veteran program, some volunteer program. I bet a bunch of veterans, a bunch of former law enforcement officers would love to do shift work where they come to the school, walk around, and just be a presence. Because where there's a presence, there's a deterrent in most cases. You rarely see it happening. In Parkland was a certain situation, but these cops got Glocks. You got a guy coming with an AR-15, you got a Glock. I mean, all you doing is being you just getting killed so he don't kill more people. Yeah, exactly. So they need to make sure that the officers are there and they're equipped. And, I'm gonna tell you something that happened to me when I was a cop, and it made me so mad, dude. Tucson is kind of liberal, and so we had an active shooter call, and it was a false call, but we had to treat it like a real active shooter, and we didn't know if it was false yet. So what happened was the sheriff deputy, or it could have been highway patrol, was chasing a person across the school lot. Now, we didn't know because they're on a different frequency. So they're doing this and we have no idea they're chasing somebody. But a kid at the school said, "Mom, the cops are chasing somebody with a gun on campus." So he calls his mom. She calls the police. They lock the school down. But bro, we get there and all of us got our AR-15s out. And she's like, no. I don't want you to scare the kids. You guys can't have those guns in the school. I wanted to slap her and lose my job, but I said, "Ma'am, you don't have control over this. We're going to go and clear the school with an AR-15. We're not clearing the school with a handgun." And so that's some of the problem too that people are not addressing, is that some of these more far left districts, they're so terrified of guns that they don't even want the cops to have guns. They don't even want security. They don't want guns on the campus. And they're leaving these kids vulnerable.
Have you seen the AI security cameras they got out now? The new technology with AI cameras?
I haven't seen that.
So I won't say where it is, but like a good friend of mine, he has some very like some of the newest tech when it comes to security cameras, and it's all AI driven. Like this stuff picks up on everything. Every single person walking by that establishment, it picks up on their face. It picks up on anything in their hands. If a vehicle, and it learns too. It's a learning system. So, if typically people walk at a pace of 2 miles per hour in this area, and then somebody's all of a sudden walking, you could set parameters on it, right? So if the average walking pace is 2 miles per hour, and then somebody's coming in at 12 miles per hour, right? It'll automatically cue in on that person that's outside of the norm, and then start to analyze that person to see if they have anything in their hands, see if they have a mask on or anything that's just out of the ordinary, and it'll immediately alert the security team to let them know that this is out of the ordinary. Same with vehicles. If it's a 35 mile an hour speed zone and a car is coming in at 70 miles per hour, it picks it up and alerts them before that vehicle can get to their location. So
yeah, that's great
technology is there. And if we're able to just implement this across the country for our schools, I mean, I think it can make a world of difference. And then, because what you have there is when you have AI learning security systems, you're not having to spend as much money on manpower. I don't have to watch every single camera when I have AI learning software. Like here's another one. So at the Apple campus, this is one of their security protocols. They basically have, like, everybody has a phone on them. So if you have a phone on them, you can be tracked anywhere at any given time. So what it does is it picks up patterns of people's movements. So let's say Brandon works on the second floor on the west side of this building, and every day Brandon goes to his office first, then he goes down to the lunchroom and eats lunch with his friends. He might go out to the park, stretch for a little bit, then he comes back to his office, and he repeats this cycle 90% of the days of the year. Okay. If Brandon all of a sudden takes a left turn and goes to a completely different part of the building for no unforeseen reason, well, that it'll send an alert to the security team saying, hey, something's out of the ordinary. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that this is an outlier within the system and it needs to be addressed or looked at. And so, if we start to implement this technology into the schools, I think it can make a world of difference. That's my whole point with it.
I agree too. Before people think about taking guns, I mean, we need to take steps in using technology, because
No, it's
I
not
think
about
it's
the guns.
I think it's invaluable to play out the scenario of taking guns, because I think people don't understand what this involved with, right? I mean, what would involve this? You got 300 million guns. You got a ton of AR-15s. I think you got about 100 million AR-15s. You got all the guns on the black market. If you were to say we're going to ban every AR-15, first of all, it takes time for the legislation to pass. Then it takes time for the president to sign it and for it to be implemented. So they'll say we're going to ban every AR-15 by the year 2028. Well, people are going to buy every AR-15 on planet Earth with the anticipation of them banning guns. That we saw it in 2020 when all that stuff happened. The gun stores were empty. They had to ration ammo. People were buying so much ammo. So that's going to be a bad scenario. But then once you get to actually getting the guns to wear, there's no way in the world I will turn in any of my AR-15s. You know how much I pay for them AR-15s plus the optic, plus all the kitted stuff I got on it, the pressure pads and stuff. That stuff costs tons of money. All that ammo I got, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And nobody's going to just give that over for a gift card. So you're going to have to convince people to do that. Even after you request it, that don't mean people are going to actually do it. And then let's say people do it. The good guys turn the guns in. I guess they destroy all of them. But the criminals, they're not going to go to a gun buyback and say, yeah, I know I'm a convicted felon, bro, but let me get this gun with a switch on it. Let me give this extended mag that's already illegal. That's not going to happen. So what you're going to do is have citizens disarming themselves, but the criminals don't care about going to jail. They don't care if they get caught with a stolen gun. They don't care about killing people. So you're going to have a fallout. And let's just say it takes, 2 or 3 decades to get people to get on track. You still got people dying and get murdered in the process. So the taking the guns in America don't work. In a smaller place, like if you want to do it in a state, like they compare us to some of these other countries that are the size of one of our states, you probably can get away with it. But guns are a part of the American fabric. We have a Second Amendment for a reason. We do not want to be overturned or overthrown by a tyrannical government. And so there are going to be consequences for it, but the justification of our Second Amendment outweighs the consequences that we see. People get mad at the guns. Don't get mad at the guns. Get mad at the crazy people. Get mad at the fact that your school don't have no security for your kids. They're not going into a bank with a gun. Why? There's armed people at the door at the bank. They're not going, people are just not robbing places that are heavily armed or protected. The mission is to create a mass casualty situation without resistance. And that's the areas that they're going to.
Why do you think this, like PTSD issue seems to be more prevalent in vets than in law enforcement?
That's a good question. I don't think it's more prevalent. I just think it's
the
more
same on the LA side. What have you noticed?
Man, like I think it's more. Well, let me take this back. We got to differentiate between military veterans who are non-combat and ones who go to combat, because I don't think PTSD is as extreme in a person who just got deployed in their MOS technology or something. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody that's not like seen or had to be in a conflict. So amongst people that go to war and that are in combat zones, I bet PTSD is way higher than the average military veteran. Now, law enforcement, it also depends, right? If you work in Scottsdale, nobody calls the police in Scottsdale. You know what I mean? A couple times a day. You work in Chicago, you work in Tucson, you work in Phoenix, you work in the Phoenix proper. The stuff that we see, I think cops have PTSD. It's just that it's not as recognized, if that makes sense. Because military is, people know the war is going on, that the violence is there, and they get a little more attention. But like law enforcement, like I have a level of PTSD, I'm sure. It's not to an extreme, but dude, I can't go nowhere and sit without my back being against the wall. I can't. I got like anxiety. I can't, like loud sounds for me. It mess with me. Like I can't hear it loud, like a bang or something. It's just, I'm looking and I'm always afraid of getting killed. Like, you know, so it's a lot that go on. And I was 6.5 years. The guys that did 20 years, 30 years, I mean, they're way more in it than I am. And if you look at statistical data points, law enforcement average life expectancy of a law enforcement officer who retire after, 25, 30 year retirement is 50 years old. So a lot of cops are killing themselves. They're drinking their lives away when they retire, or they have extreme PTSD and they can't function outside of, they beating their wives, they cheating. And so both traumatic experienced careers do experience PTSD. And I think I would argue per capita, I think cops may experience PTSD at a greater level than the average veteran military personnel. And the reason I say that, if you've never been deployed to a combat zone or you haven't had any combat, you may not be as damaged as like cops, because it's every day. I mean, seeing people with decapitated. I've seen at least 2 or 3 people decapitated. Seeing people get killed right in front of you or die, giving CPR to a guy that's begging for his life with 5 bullet holes in him. I mean, just stuffing it, trying to pack his wounds in the middle of the street. You know, driving code 3, that adrenaline rush, adrenaline dump every day. You know, people jumping out buildings, and when they land, we are the ones that have to go and respond and pick their broken bodies up. The car accidents are insane, man. Like, I've seen so many people dead in car accidents, and babies in the trunk of car accident, vehicles, and going to the morgue every other day, dealing with dead people and seeing dead babies in there. Like watching kids die at the hospital after, they've been beaten in the head by a parent. I saw that once. It was traumatizing. So cops kind of deal with stuff every single day, man. Like, even if it's not violence, more prevalent. Yeah, I think it is. I just think it is not addressed as much. But like, not even the violence, dude. Every day you're dealing with people who are having the worst day of their lives every day that you go to work. They're not calling you because they're getting married. They're calling you because this has gone south and they beat up their wife, or somebody stabbed somebody, and you just deal with that turmoil every single day. And a lot of cops become jaded, and then they're jaded in their personal life. So it may not be recognized as PTSD, but the reason why their life is falling apart, because they can't have a regular relationship with people. They don't trust people because they get lied to every day of their life. You know what I'm saying? And therefore they can't trust. And so there's a lot of stuff there. But, they've been doing a better job in law enforcement at getting officers the help they need while they're on duty. Like at Tucson Police, we got free counseling anytime we needed it. And I had it one time, and it was because I blew up on somebody. Some dude called me the N-word, man, and I had a long day, and he was a D-bag anyway to everybody that was a cop, and he started threatening my partner, and I got on his butt, and I told him, come on around that fence, and I'm going to give you this work. You know what I mean? I was going to fight the guy, and thank God nothing happened, but I told my commander, he's like, Brandon, just go talk to somebody, like, it's okay that, nothing happened, but you're clearly extremely frustrated. It's a lot going on, go and talk to somebody and just have a conversation. And I did. And it was helpful. And so, and me having a dog helped me too. Many people may not realize it, but every day you come home, your dog love you. You know what I mean? You could be having a bad day. You could be mean to your dog the day before. But my dog Phineas used to just wag and just whine when I come to the door. He's just happy to see me. He slept in the bed with me every night. And little did I know, I think he was balancing out my emotions, because going to work, seeing all that, and then going home by yourself, isolated, all of your friends that only talk about murder and police stuff. You know what I'm saying? and it can get you in a depressed state. You know, there was a point in time where I was really low, man. I was really low. I was to the point of questioning whether or not I want to live or not. Like I had gotten to that point. And thank God my daddy and them kind of picked up on the fact that I wasn't answering the phone and stuff. And they just flew out there. They flew out to come see me. They said, we ain't even talking. We flying out there to see you and make sure you're okay. You know, I was struggling. I was making a police salary. I didn't have no groceries in the refrigerator, you know, so I'm stressed about finances. I'm single. I'm stressed about relationships. I'm stressed with all that stuff I see. I'm stressed with my career. You know, I'm trying to, you know, advance in my career. I got the sergeant's test coming up. I'm trying to make the SWAT team. So there's a lot going on in policing world that I know of. You know, I never served in the military, but it's something that I think that society needs to address or bring awareness to as well.
Yeah, because they talk a lot about PTSD and veterans, but I never hear it with the police officers. And I got a lot of friends that are police officers. So I know what these guys go through. I can see it. They wear it on their faces when they're on duty, when they're off duty. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can start to raise a little bit of awareness for those guys. And, you know, the same treatment, you know, veterans are getting. Hopefully it'll all improve across the board. But it's definitely something serious. And, you know, you don't know what these guys are going through when they decide to shoot up a place.
Yeah.
The one from the other day, he was like on a boat shooting up a fish market restaurant. Like, why? You know, why them? I never understand why they're picking certain people to carry out these acts. Or is it just boiling over and they just look for the one opportunity? The whole premeditation of getting on a boat in the first place to get out there makes no sense to me. I don't understand what's going through these people's head. Do they not have family? Do they not have friends that's paying attention to this?
I saw, you know, we had a veteran. It was an older guy. He was a veteran, and you know, he killed himself in the graveyard, and it was because he had something happened to him in war, so he lost his legs, and so he was in a wheelchair. He was an older guy, so you could tell he was a veteran. He had been out of the military for a while, but he was struggling, and I'd never forget that phone call, the 911 call, dispatch, is that he was calling. He was in a wheelchair. He was in an electric wheelchair, so he rode an electric wheelchair into the graveyard. And he called and said, "Look, there's no saving me. Don't try to save me. I'm gonna kill myself, and just you'll find me in the graveyard. I'm done with life. I don't want to live no more. I can't do this anymore. Just tell the officers I'm at the graveyard in this area." And then boom, you could hear it on the phone. He shot himself right there on the phone. And I'll never forget, we were looking through the graveyard and we driving through and we're trying to find the guy because we didn't know exactly where he was at. And it's pitch black. There's no lights in the graveyard. And so we run up on him, man, and it was sad, man. He had shot himself right in the head, and I don't want to explain the details. You probably know it, but he was slumped over, and it was just terrible to see him, man. He had all these infections in his legs, and the thing that broke me, man, was that he had his I don't know what flag he had on it, but it was like a military flag on his thing, and he had the American flag there. He had his garb on, like a little stuff that like military indicia, like a T-shirt with something on it. And it was just sad, man. And that's in Tucson. Imagine all over the country what's happening. So I'm hoping people would, they'll get with the program and let's serve and help people that are struggling. And I'm gonna tell you this, dude, it's not just the military and it's not just police. When you grow up in the hood, when your friends are getting killed, you run it, you afraid for your life, gang violence and getting beat by your mama because your daddy ain't around and she taking it out on you. You ain't got nothing to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like there's PTSD that's developed in people that are just living life in America. Yeah, and a lot of times when you see people gang banging and you see them doing violent crimes, a lot of them ain't in their right mind. It's not that they're like, I want to be evil today. It's that they don't know how to battle. I don't have a daddy at home. I don't know who I am. I'm not really tough, but I gotta act tough to be down with the homies. And so now I gotta prove myself and I gotta go do something violent. And you know what I mean? So I think we as a country, we need to start paying more attention to people's health, mental health. Nobody in their right mind is killing people, right? It's people that are their minds is messed up and they're struggling, you know what I'm saying? And that don't mean they shouldn't go to prison and go, stuff like that. But we need to try to help them before they end up doing something crazy.
Do you see any potential solutions as far as like coming from these lower income neighborhoods, poverty type neighborhoods like the hood or whatever, from you coming from that world to where you are now, like, do you see anything as a way that we can kind of like bring them to the table to try to start working on things that can possibly, like you said, you grew up Fort Worth and the bad side of Fort Worth, and you grew up thinking that white people hated you. Do you ever go back and recollect, well, okay, where did that start? How did that
Oh
get
yeah.
into my head? And how can I prevent that from happening to the other kids that are living in that same neighborhood?
Yeah, it's all propaganda, right? It's well, some of it is real and some of it is propaganda, right? My grandmother was alive back when, and she's still alive today, but when she was younger, black and white people drank out of different water fountains. And racism was a bigger deal, right? So sometimes what gets passed down is generational trauma. So your grandmother and great grandmother dealt with racist white people in the South, and black people getting hung and discrimination, and they begin to hate white people. There begin to be a resentment. And then great grandma passed it down to grandma, and then grandma passed it down to your dad. And it's not really intentional because times have changed. But the mentality gets passed down, and then you be thinking, oh no, white people really ain't, yeah, we don't drink our same water fountain, but white people really don't mess with us like that. And then what happens when you have a lens like that you're looking through? Everything a white person do is an affront to you. You go to a restaurant and a white person don't give you bad service, you're like, oh, it's because I'm black, right? You know what I'm saying? And then that happens, and then you go to media. Every movie out that a black person is ever in is some slave movie where black people are slaves or they second-class citizens, and that's reinforced. And you listen to the rap music, rapping about killing and drama and hating white people, and then peer pressure. When I was growing up, there was peer pressure to no end that if you try to wear your pants around your waist and you wasn't sagging and you wasn't had no swag, you trying to be white. You got good grades, you were articulate, you want to go to college, you be a doctor. Oh, you trying to be like the white man. And so then there's this thing where I don't want to be like the white man, which means I need to be like the black man, which is selling drugs and looking at my life that my ceiling is like right here. But the solution to that is that we need to stop. We need to start conditioning culture in the black community. Now, do I think it's going to happen? I'm not very hopeful that it will happen. But like encouraging, like black men like me, I get online and I get called all kind of names. But like black men like me, I'm an example of get married, take care of your kids, believe in yourself, be an entrepreneur. Racism is a myth in the back of your mind. It's nothing that black people can't, it's nothing that white people can do that black people can't do. I talk about that to no end. And other black men being stand-up individuals and teaching the next generation that racism stuff is propaganda, bruh. Like, you can be whatever you want to be in America. America is for all of us. Black history is American history. Young people hearing that more makes them branch out in their theology. These communities that are riddled with violence, they need more law enforcement. They need cops on the streets so young brothers ain't going and doing drive-by shootings, because the violence perpetuates more violence. And so if you can thwart the violence, you can have a better, more peaceful environment. Politicians, we need to stop electing idiots that are pushing these false narratives. Elect people that are examples of what is right with America, people that love America, that want to unite us. Martin Luther King, his famous speech is that we should be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. We need more leaders that are saying that. Instead, they want us to be judged by the color of our skin. So those things, once you start unraveling those, once you start getting young men to take care of their kids, once you get young women to stop having abortions and being promiscuous and believing that that's black identity, you will start seeing things change. Because let me tell you this, black people in the hood live a different lifestyle than black people that live in the middle class and black people who are wealthy. So it's not a black thing. It's a cultural thing. And, preaching this to no end, more black people standing up and telling the truth, like LeBron James and some of these other successful black people, instead of crying racism every day, what they should be doing is empowering young black men to be like them. Because these dudes don't just play basketball. They do business. And so a black kid may not be in the NBA, because the likelihood of that is likely you'll get struck by lightning twice before you go to the NBA, generally speaking, for the average person. Teach them how to do business, though. Teach them how to move and shake. Teach them how to pick the right lawyers and how to not pay as much taxes and stuff like that. LeBron James is faithful to his wife. I don't know. He haven't had any controversies come out where he cheated on his wife. He take care of his kids. Teach young men to be like that. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a narrative that feels like it's walking us back instead of forward. And a lot of the progress that we made in this country, like I didn't even realize growing up how much progress we had made, as a country, and not having this division and separation and like that until I'm kind of seeing what's in the news today and what's in politics now. And it's like the left is just screaming, it's the white man's fault. It's the white man's fault. And even white men are saying it's the white man's fault.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we talking about? Like, yeah, maybe it's not the same as it was back then, the segregation and stuff like that. But it's like now you're segregating the white man, which is kind of like refueling all of the hate that we had already moved on from as a country. And now you're just restoking the fire, just blowing fucking oxygen into this fire to reignite it. And it's like, what are they doing? They have to
Yeah.
see that this is having negative consequences on the country.
But it's lucrative. It's lucrative, my man. They don't need a cure
Yeah.
for cancer. It's lucrative to have people have cancer. It's lucrative
That's
for this drama. Nobody will vote for you. Like, they get votes because they claim they're going to fix it every year. Like, they need there to be a problem to fix. And then they can guilt you into voting for them, because you 100% right, man. Like, race relations have gotten much worse than it used to be. I remember a time where before Barack Obama, I feel like people were just not worried about that. Everybody grinding, everybody trying to get their thing. They're not worried about that. In the 30s and the 40s, even at the height of segregation, Black people weren't as worried about it as they are today, because I know people that grew up in that era, and a lot of people I talk to, they say that was a mischaracterization of the totality of what was going on. Like, like Jim Crow was in the South. There was no Jim Crow in the North. And even in Jim Crow South, Black people were doing their thing and white people were doing their own thing. That was the government implementing division. But the people weren't tripping about that as much as they made it out to be. Just like in Black Lives Matter in 2020. Police are just killing Black people for no reason. That wasn't true. Most Black people don't have bad interactions with police. And it was the same thing in the civil rights movement. It was co-opted. And I like Martin Luther King, and I thought he did some good things, but he was a part of the problem, because Martin Luther King would go to places to stoke violence and stoke prejudice when places where they didn't have an issue, right? Black people had their own restaurants. Black people had their own schools. Black people had their own transportation. And what Martin Luther King and them would do, just like that Black Lives Matter do, they go to a place where it's a bunch of rednecks, and and Black people ain't mixing, but they want to go and mix. So now the white people are like, get out of this restaurant. You ain't supposed to be here. Why are y'all doing this? And then they clash and they get it on camera. And now it appears that white people attack Black people like this all the time. When the Black folks know they ain't welcome at the restaurant, they don't want to go to the restaurants. They got their own stuff going. And so Martin Luther King and other activists inadvertently or intentionally created a scenario to push a government agenda. And I honestly think organically we would have seen things changed without forcing it to. Black people had their own schools. Black people should have just kept going to Black schools, and then eventually people would have been like, you know what? We cool now. Let's just get along to get along. We do business together. We do this together. Black people had so many great inventions that have benefited America. It's time to vote for somebody that's preaching unity instead of the government saying, because if you remember this, people may not remember this. Black and white people didn't create segregation. The government did. The government mandated that Black people couldn't go on this side of town. That wasn't really the people doing that. And then the government implemented that you can't discriminate against people and doing all this. And, government just makes things worse, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. And, Martin Luther King, his private life was something I'm sure you probably read through everything as far as his private life. So he wasn't an angel by any means.
No, I think he was much worse than what people are giving him credit for. What happens is
100%.
When you die, people are less likely to criticize you, right? When you're alive, because Martin Luther King's approval rating was horrific. Like 75% of people didn't even like Martin Luther King. But when he died, they memorialized him and made him into a figurehead that they could use. But in reality, he was doing orgies, and he was
Yeah.
he was a pastor doing orgies and all kind of other stuff. So, and I'm not trying to taint the man's entire life, but what I'm saying is that the story isn't being told properly. They're leveraging his story to bludgeon you to use the government to do whatever they want to do. And I think that's something people need to look into, because they're going to hear this and they're going to get mad at me. Look at that black man, that white man talking about Martin Luther King. No, don't listen to me. Go look it up. Go look at if he did orgies. Go look at why the CIA was following Martin Luther King around and some of the criminal things that he did. Go look at whether or not, like Rosa Parks. Like Rosa Parks had a car, and a lot of people don't know that Rosa Parks had her own car, and the bus boycott was staged. And she got on a bus and she staged it, and she created the controversy. It wasn't organic. It wasn't like Rosa Parks ride the bus every day and she got tired of this. No, it didn't. She had a car, and they staged this to create what they needed to create to get the government to do something.
Jesus Christ. Well, we could go on and on about all that, but I want to get into Charlie. I want to make sure we, allocate enough of this podcast to talk about your friend Charlie. Because like what I see right now going on in this country is, I don't see this as left versus right. I think it just happens to be a lot of left stoking the fire. But I think the majority, I look at the entire world as 98% of this country is good people. They're, they believe in good versus evil, and they have a conscience. I think there's a 1% on each side that is causing all of what we see, and then it's being highlighted by the media. So I look at this whole thing as good versus evil. I try not to attach politics to this, because I have a lot of family and friends that are Democrats, and then I have a lot of friends that are Republican. I'm just curious your thoughts, like with everything going on with Charlie now, and you said you used to go do these TPUSA events and with no security, and like, do you fear for your life?
Oh, now I do. I think we took it for granted, to be honest. I think we knew these people were crazy, and we thought that they may want to throw water on us or throw some eggs, or we may have to get in a little skirmish. I did not think that they wanted to kill us like that. I mean, I think they wanted us dead, but I didn't think they want to kill us, if that makes sense. I didn't think they have enough balls to come out and try to snipe one of us at a college event. I just didn't think so. And I'm telling you, like, I was out there raw, like no security. At UC Davis, we got attacked. I pushed a couple of them little weenies on the ground, you know what I mean? Because they soft. I could have whooped the whole crew by myself. But I was just out there rogue, man, and the cops weren't going to do anything. And so, at the end of the day, I feel like that we took it for granted. But now, man, I'm really thinking about it. I have personal security that travel with me, and, I might have to ramp up security, because these people can't just take a disagreement. They can't just take, well, I don't like Brandon Tatum, so I just don't listen to him on the YouTube. You know what I mean? They can't accept that. They like, he's spreading hate, and, they want to kill you. And all you get is a mentally ill kid that's been indoctrinated. They ain't got nothing to lose, and they get all hyped up on social media and looking at all these blogs, and then they build the image of you as the devil. And who wouldn't want to take the devil out, right? Yeah, it's honorable to take the devil out in their mind. And then they come after you and kill you. So I don't do events without security anymore. I'm not doing any outdoor events, because they can't protect me with counter snipers or nothing like that. And so I'm not doing it. And that's going to be the way forward until something else happens,
Yeah. From a law enforcement background, what happened on September 10th? What was the first thing that came to your mind from the scenario, the whole situation, like strictly just from your experience, like mishaps in security?
Yeah. When I first I learned a little bit afterwards, but when I first saw it, I saw the clip of Charlie getting shot from a distance. So I thought he kind of just took a round to the shoulder, and he kind of went off to the side, and they rescued him. And so I thought he was going to be okay. And I saw the close up, and I realized he was instantly killed. I wasn't shocked that it happened. I was shocked that it happened, but I wasn't shocked that it could happen. Meaning that in open air situation like that, I mean, it's hard to protect every angle unless you have counter snipers, unless you have drone coverage, unless you then went through and checked every single building, and you've made sure nobody was in the buildings. You locked off every door, and there's no access to the windows. And I felt like I'm not shocked that could happen in that scenario. And I was very sad that there weren't more protection for Charlie. Later I found out that, they have personal protection and they have campus and police protection. And their personal protection only had certain jurisdiction. And really, it was the responsibility of the university and local law enforcement to make sure that nobody's going to snipe him from 200 yards out. It really wasn't his personal protection. Now, if
I've always been an active guy, training, pushing myself. But once I learned how caffeine forces your body into that fight or flight mode, I realized it was wrecking my recovery. I'd get the boost, but I couldn't really rest. That's when I came across methylene blue. It gives me clean energy, sharper focus, and I could still recover. Honestly, it changed everything for me in the gym, in business, and in life. Then I discovered alpha lipoic acid. On its own, it's a strong nootropic, boosting choline, which drives brain and body performance. But when you combine it with methylene blue, it's on another level. That's why I worked with the partner to create Magic Bullet, methylene blue plus ALA. For me, methylene blue was powerful on its own, but with ALA, it's the only way I do it now. Right now at bluevitality.com, you can pick up a full bottle of Magic Bullet for just $39.95. Use my promo code SJ to get 20% off the regular price. If you're serious about your training, your focus, or your recovery, this is the way to go.
If it wasn't a scenario where police had a joint venture involvement, then I would say obviously there was a mistake made not covering the roof and covering high points and doing some reconnaissance, right? I mean, you got to kind of look and say, I got him, I'm a man in a fatal funnel. Everything leads down to this one point, and it's the easiest shot on campus, and it's the easiest target on campus. And so putting him in another location, putting some bulletproof stuff, putting some vehicles between him, maybe the engine block will stop rounds if they need to get down quickly. And so it's easier to say it post event, but that was kind of the first few things that I thought about. I'm like, dang, I wish we would have took it more seriously and protected him from getting killed.
So were you saying it was law enforcement's responsibility to be covering the rooftops and that of it?
Well,
The
I
first
don't
thing that
know.
came to my mind, first thing that came to my mind is like, okay, just from a security standpoint alone, why would you do it right in the middle of this bowl? I don't know how many rooftops were surrounding him, but just from a security, like executive protection standpoint, that's not where you're going to want to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, hindsight's 2020, but
but there's more to it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll say this: what was mentioned was that the information I got was that at a lot of these events they have a dueling responsibility. So the perimeter external responsibility is up to the law enforcement, and then his personal protection had to protect him personally because he had about 12 guys there protecting him. So clearly somebody missed the rooftop. But and this was told to me or mentioned to me in passing that there was a threat and there was a reasonable request to not do him outside. But it appeared that, Charlie wanted to do him outside. And I think that there may have been a lot of pushback to say we can't do it outside because we can't protect you. But Charlie being a Christian man, I think he felt, God is protecting me and I'm gonna keep doing it. And I think what happened to Charlie was meant to be. I think God had a plan for Charlie and this was his plan. However, in the future, I think people need to, which people are doing now, they need to take it a little more seriously and not just rely on, we hope these people are doing their job. That's what happened with Trump. I mean, he almost got sniped because somebody, the Secret Service is not, I think somebody knew that that roof wasn't covered. The most obvious high point in the entire vicinity wasn't covered. And it not even covered by counter sniper. So that was way more bizarre than Charlie's situation. I mean, you talk about the president that we're talking about versus, a guy going on campus debating people.
Yeah. If that could happen to the president, like, fuck, man.
I think that's why the kid did it. Because if you don't have to, if you're tactical, high point, you know how to do all that stuff, right? Zero your rifle, you got it all planned out, breathing, what round you're going to use. You got it all figured out, right? But if you're not tactically inclined and you haven't done sniper work or anything like that, you watch what another guy did and you just mimic it. And when you leave the opportunity open like that, the mimic, the person impersonating or whatever, they got it easy. You just say, he was on a high roof. Let me find a high roof. Oh, there's a high roof. And one thing about these events too that made them inherently more dangerous, which I'm telling you, I took it for granted too, was that we pre-plan them, we promote the event, and we promote the location of the debate. So we say, meet us here on the lawn, on Jackson's lawn. We promote it for 2 weeks. So somebody can go and do reconnaissance on Jackson's lawn and say, oh, they're going to be right here on Jackson's lawn. So what building can I go to that would be a good vantage point for me to see right here where they're going to put the tent up at? Yeah. And, so in the future, we have to be more vigilant. And I'm not saying his security team did anything wrong, because I couldn't imagine them overlooking that with the type of guys he had and how many he had.
I can imagine, wanting to get that backdrop of the school and the whole, the selling of this, what you guys are doing out there, which I think what you guys are doing out there is God's work. Make that very clear. But there's a way you could do it on the outside edge of a campus like that, where you could still get buildings in the background for the effect that you're going for, right? But not have, so many vantage points for somebody that is trying to come along. That's just like my security brain kind of trying to work this out on how you guys can still accomplish what you're there for without having to be inside, but also protect yourselves in a certain manner. That
it's a lot of tactics there, brother. Like anybody with any tactical experience would know if that was your attempt, because if your attempt is not really to prioritize it, then you put him right there in the middle of this thing, and in the most vulnerable, fatal funnel that you can find on campus. But if you are, there's a lot of places on campus that you can still mimic that without having a person exposed. Like, so there's a kind of a scenario like this. What's his name, Nick? I forget the guy's name. He over there editing. He can't hear me. But there's another guy that do podcasting. He was the first one to go on campus. He just did an event. And what did they do? They pulled an SUV behind him. They had the extraction van going. They put barriers on either side, so there's not a clear shot of him on either side. And they had a bulletproof glass that goes up, and they put him in a position that the only shot has to be from the front, because there's trees and buildings off to the side with no vantage point. Stephen Crowder is his name. And then the only shot has to come from a building right in front of him. And they had this bulletproof glass that obstructs rounds coming at the only place they can shoot him. So he's kind of like sitting behind his glass. I don't know how thorough they were, but it seems that they at least gave an effort to put him in a position on campus where he got at least 3 corners covered. And I'll tell you this, I was on UC Davis and they had me out in the open. And I said, we need to get our backs up against something, because I'm talking and people are behind me. The police can't protect me in a 365 degrees. So put me in a corner where we have, our back to something. And then the police only have to cover this area like this. They don't have to cover 365 degrees. And I'm like, get me somewhere where there's ballistics, right? You somewhere where a tree is because if they start shooting, I can at least get behind something and get out of the way. You know what I mean? We have a good exit strategy. But the kids on campus ain't thinking about this. Yeah. They don't know anything about ballistics and tactics and egress, and they've never been in this scenario, and they get flustered. The sad part is that they get flustered, man, with a couple of water bottles thrown. And now moving forward, I think people that are big players in the game need to be more serious about this stuff. And you got to act like somebody's going to kill you every time you go on campus. Even 100%. If you indoor is the same. It is no different. Like somebody indoor can get into the roof, the raffle in the roof or something like that. They can hide in the bathroom and wait. They spend a night in the bathroom. When they open up the venue, they have access. Even if you want people at the door. So you go indoor, you got to do a full thorough check. Somebody got to come the day before, map out egress point. They got to map out the escape plan. They got to map out vulnerabilities. And so
I know you've been.
I'm not doing no more unless they got me covered. You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say, I hope you're not until they got that plan figured out, Pat. I know you've been pretty vocal with these conspiracy theories that are getting, floated around right now, especially how it's going to hinder the investigation and the potential case that they're building on Tyler Robinson. So I don't want to dive into a lot of that stuff. I'm of the mindset, let's let it play out. Everybody kind of has their theories and what they think, but I'm with you. I think a lot of this stuff you should be keeping it closer to heart until it's not going to affect the case, right?
Let them pick the jury. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to end that with one question. Are you confident? The one thing I will ask, are you confident that Tyler is the shooter?
Well, I'm going to give you my confidence rating. So I'm like 96% he's a shooter. With the information I got, I know, and what has been presented. Because I really don't go off of stuff that we don't have real evidence for. I'll tell you, the only reason I'm not 100% is because I don't know the round. I don't know if they've ballistically tested the round yet.
We haven't got an autopsy, right?
They did an autopsy. See, people
They did, but we haven't
don't know
gotten
that.
it, right?
Yeah, we haven't got. They're obviously not going to release the autopsy to the public, but there is an autopsy that was done for a fact. I know for a fact. Well, first of all, I know because I've done this before. But then, secondly, I was informed that there was an autopsy done. So the caliber is the only thing that keeps me from believing that he did it, or not believing that he did it, but not being as confident, because a 30-06 round seems to would have done way more damage than what we saw. But at the end of the day, shooting from a top angle down could, it could cause the body to do a lot of stuff. And so once they match that round, they do barrel tracing or whatever they call it, where they fired around and they trace the barrel and they match the rounds. If that comes back to that gun, then I'll be 100% sure. And the reason why I say that is because there's just too many complications in place to frame this weirdo, right? I mean, they got video footage. They got him running through the alleyway. They got him running out to the street. They found the gun in the alleyway where this person was running that appeared to have similar clothes as him. They got him doing text messages. They got his father turning him in. They got Discord communication from his Discord channel and 20 other people that were communicating on that thread. So with a lot of this evidence, and then I saw the hearing where they introduced the defense counsel, and the defense counsel waived the preliminary hearing. And I think people got to understand what that means when you waive a preliminary hearing. That means that you are not contesting probable cause whatsoever. So if their defense was he is not the shooter, then they would have a preliminary hearing, because they would have to contest probable cause evidence, because you got to say he's not the shooter. So we are contesting that your probable cause statement that said that the rifle was used and it DNA evidence that the DNA match him, we're contesting that in a preliminary hearing. They waived it. So that means that they accepted the probable cause evidence that was presented to the court by the prosecution. I think they're only defending him from the death penalty. They're not defending whether or not he was a shooter. Now, the problem with what people are doing with the conspiracies are they're tainting the jury pool. Because if the jury, because it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So if the jury begin to have doubt because they think it's a conspiracy and they think the government is behind it, Israel killed them, and not, you may get jurors that come to a hung jury. They can't come to a decision because some people are engulfed in conspiracies. But one thing I think people need to realize, and I've done this for a long time, and I've covered so many cases in this, wait until the evidence is presented in court, because you cannot write an affidavit with lies. And on the affidavit to indict him, they wrote that he communicated this with his father. These are the text messages that were sent. They're validating all of these things that they have to show evidence to the court regarding. So they can't, they're saying the gun is his. They're saying they have DNA evidence. They're saying they have shoe impressions. They're saying that the video footage is the video footage of him, which was recognized by his family. They recognized the footage and said, this is our son. Like they were like, this is him on a thing. So all of that evidence that was written in the probable cause statement has to be backed up with evidence to the court at the preliminary hearing, which the defense waived. And so we're going to see, and I wish people would understand this, the electronic communication between him and his boyfriend, we only saw what detectives did is extracted and put it on a document so you can read it. That's not what the detectives saw. They saw the electronic communication on the phone, which means that they have every conversation that has happened between him and that trans person on their data. They extract that data into a database. They presented a few lines of communication with both people. They didn't show the full context. They didn't show everything that was said between the two of them. They just showed a few exchanges. They didn't show what his dad said to him, phone call or via text. They didn't show what the Discord channel said, specifically, every Discord communication. They didn't show the message with his mom to his dad to the sheriff who was the neighbor, the phone calls. All of this stuff is going to come out in court. The defense said they need more time because there's so much evidence to go through. They also said there's a massive amount of electronic communication that they need to go through. So they need the case to continue so they can prepare. If the defense is acknowledging that there's so much evidence, people need to like wait a little bit. I've been a part of so many investigations, and it's the FBI has way more than they're disseminating to the public because they don't want to compromise the case. And they may have other people still out there that was involved. And if you start putting out crucial, incriminating information on other that could possibly implicate other people, when you find them and interview them, they already know what evidence you have against them. Mm-hmm. So then in the interview, they're going to say, no, I never owned a Samsung cell phone. I have no idea. I'm not even on Discord. Because now they know you got evidence that they were on Discord, you know? So, but if the FBI drip a little bit, but they hold on to a lot of the evidence, when they do start finding other people involved, they can question them in a fair and impartial interrogation. And then they present that interrogation to the court that's unbiased. That all that stuff matters, man. The whole case will be thrown out. Let me tell you this. I'm gonna finish with this. If any of the conspiracies are correct, first of all, they would never been able to present it to a judge, but they have no case. He will be let off. They are going to lose. It's going to be, they're going to deliberate for 35 seconds. If any one of these conspiracy theories are correct, like him getting shot from a third person or another person on campus, the lapel mic exploding on him, Israel killing him somehow, the team at Turning Point having something to do with manipulating the footage, and they have no case. And I just personally believe that none of the people in the FBI want to be involved in botching a case of an assassination of one of the biggest Christian martyrs in world history. Charlie Kirk is one of the biggest martyrs of Christianity that we've ever had in American history.
That's a good point.
You know, who would be the FBI director that say, of course we got the wrong person. You know what I mean? We're going to let the real person go free. So we're going to frame this guy and let the real killer go and kill other people. I just find it very difficult to believe that that could be the scenario.
I agree. Do you think, you know, the fact that so many people are playing CSI on this case, and not just this one, anytime there's a huge, high profile individual that's killed, do you think, like, society engaging in this manner, it's obviously not going to go away. It's I mean, it's going viral. All these videos everybody's making, exactly, it's making money, clicks, like. But do you also like looking at that deeper? There's a reason why people feel the need to play CSI on these things.
Yeah,
and it's because
in part
the public feels like they're being lied to, right, all the time.
Right, and the government is shady as a mother. So
yeah.
But what I would tell people as advice is that we have to be able to compartmentalize. Just because the government lies about this, don't mean they're lying about that. And just because they tell us the truth about this, don't mean they're telling the truth about that. So each case, we have to compartmentalize and say, let's try to do our best at a good faith effort to see where this is going, and then we can criticize. This case is so new and it's so early in the investigation that people were just saying stuff. They say he didn't have an autopsy, and it's a lie. They're saying that they didn't find a round. the coroner at the autopsy found a round, and I was told exactly where the round went and how they believed that it happened. So that's people are saying it, but that's a lie. There's autopsy evidence that there was a round found, and this is how the bullet traveled through his body.
Mhm.
I know all the guys on the video team. I know all the guys that were on his security team. So all the hand signals and stuff that people were saying, it just didn't happen. Frank Turek,
Yeah.
the dude in the white shirt, that
What's
dude
the
is one of
latest
my
one
good
with the
friends. I
Meta
mean, good friends,
glasses?
but I know him very well.
The latest one I saw was one of his security guards has on those Meta glasses, and he was clicking a button or something like that. That's what they're saying. They thought he was doing, which I don't know. I wasn't
Yeah,
there.
he
I
did
don't know.
click the button. He did do it. I saw him do it, but I think he probably was doing it to get some good footage, because he got footage of Charlie arguing with people, and Charlie may like him to do that. Or maybe there was a person who was an agitator, and so he
Oh,
hit his glasses so he can have a recording of the crowd so they can go back and watch. I mean, I don't think
yeah.
he did it to
Well,
watch Charlie die.
I think it was the shot when he was like hovering over Charlie. He hit it, but maybe it was him turning it off.
Oh, he turned. You know what happened? He turned it. I think he turned it off because or he could have turned it on. And here's a few reasons why. And people, if they're not thinking nefariously, here would be a reason why he would turn the Meta glasses on, so they can see their tactics and how they did a rescue. Because when you
But they wouldn't be doing it in a situation like that.
well, they wouldn't. I
That
don't think that they would. I'm saying there would be a reason for a person to do it, but I don't think that would be the first thought, right? I don't think he'll be down there
Yeah.
like,
In the heat of the
but I
moment,
don't think
I
he'll be
think
down
that,
there turning them off either. I
yeah,
kind of think, why would he be
exactly.
turning them off? Not as,
Like,
well, he may not
and
have wanted the gruesome footage. He may not want that gruesome footage, so he turned it
that's
off. But
that's what I was hoping. That's what it was. But like in a heat of the moment like that, that's the one thing that stood out to me. And like I said, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but like the security guard's behavior was odd to me. Like your
you
first
think so?
instinct, just like
I thought they were all over it.
oh no, they were all over it. They got him off the X, but your first instinct is like when they tried to shoot Trump. What did you see the security guards around him, Secret Service? What did you see them do? They
They
all
rushed Trump to
dogpiled
get him
on top
down.
of him to protect
Yeah.
him. Whereas you saw security guards going every which direction when Charlie went down. Some of them were grabbing
Well,
stuff off the ground. Somebody were, they were handing things to other people, and there was all sorts of commotion. And I'm like, why is nobody jumping on top of Charlie right here? And like I
yeah,
said, I don't
yeah.
want to get
So
too into it, but
yeah, no, but this is what I think was happening. Just looking at the team, because they had like 7 or 8 people. I think what was happening, because you see the guy jump over the table, and then he ended up running out. I think initially the guy who was behind him fixing his shirt took Charlie to the ground. They had 3 or 4 dudes jump on Charlie immediately, but some of the guys began to go to the car to prep it for exit. And I think
mm-hmm.
that's what they were doing. Like the guy that slid over the table and he came, I think he was probably trying to grab a tourniquet out his back or something. And he was like, and they would probably tell him, go to the car, go to the car, go to the car. You got to get the car because we're going to extract him. We're not going to sit here and do
Right.
CPR. Like we got to get him out of here off
Get
the
off
X.
the X.
And some people had to go get the car, prep the car. I think that's probably why people were running. They were trying to, I think they had an extraction plan, right? Everybody can't get on Charlie, right? You got to get some people that get on Charlie, and others have to get the exit going. Whether it be multiple shooters, they got to be able to shoot out of the place. They don't know where the shooters are coming from. Like everybody can't be on Charlie looking around, because if there's multiple shooters or there's follow-up shots, they're gonna sit and duck. So, and I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I'm saying when I saw it, I was like, okay, I see. Like these guys jumped him, and the other ones had to go to the car to get it ready to go, and get him in the car and bounce out of there.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I've been ambushed like overseas in Afghanistan. We've been ambushed before. And when shots start to ring off, it's not like in the movies where, somebody shoots at you from far away and everybody knows exactly where that person shot from. Like in real life, shots go off. You can't tell which direction it came from half the time. It's so fucking loud. And inside that concrete bowl that he was in, I can't even imagine. Nobody knew where that shot came from. And I bet you the sounds were even echoing off the microphones and everything. So, I understand the situation of wanting to get off the X. It just struck me as odd why certain people. I don't know. It seemed a little odd, but like I said.
But then also here's one thing I think you consider too, is that I don't know what real experience and how much training his team was. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know where they were. Like if you're talking about a real, you paying the guy $200,000-$300,000 a piece to, you know, dudes in combat zones, and they've done this real time and in the military. Because I don't know, man, some of them guys may not have been as high speed. You know what I mean? They like, oh shit, this happened. I don't know what to do. My training, what do I run? Do I, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
But
everybody acts
versus,
differently in those situations. Everybody does.
and I think
Everybody's
that a lot of
unique in how
times,
they react.
yeah, I think people get. I'm not saying they were complacent, but I think that if you are not conditioning your mind that every day you go out there, there could be a casualty situation, extraction, and you're kind of going through the motions because you did 150 of these, and these little weenie kids are just crying at the microphone. And if you hadn't been up on your training, it's an old shit moment, and nobody really communicated. That could be chaos, and that's what I saw. I saw a little bit of chaos, but I don't know.
That'll happen. You can see it in the older guys too. Guys that have been in a game for a long time, but they've never really been exposed to something like that violent and that in your face. You know, like, everybody acts strange when shit happens.
Yeah, I seen it when I was on the SWAT team, man. It's, you know, when they start shooting, when people start shooting and they start getting jiggy, even in training, bro. Like, people, we doing sim rounds, live fire. Dudes in training, glad they in training. Dudes dropping their guns and shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People shooting on a dead mag and they forget how to reload, tactical reload. I mean,
yeah, it's like part of your brain just shuts off for a moment until somebody like grabbed your shoulder and was like, "Hey, let's go, wake up," you know. So
I'll tell you something I did. I was a lady pulled a knife on me coming out of the house, and I just saw it in her eyes. She didn't want to die. She was just trying to do a suicide by cop. And I didn't realize how close I was to her. You know, I had my gun like this. Drop the knife. And the guys had to grab me and pull me back. Like, bro, you. I didn't realize it, man. I thought I was ready to address the threat, and I didn't realize that I was within too close of a distance. And the dudes had to come to the scene and pull me back. And so I get it sometimes, you know.
Well, what do you see going forward with TPUSA? I know is Blexit underneath the umbrella of TPUSA now?
Yeah, they are now.
So where do we go from here now?
Yeah, no, I think it's in my life. I see everything that I talk about is two ways to go, right? I always just like two sides of the coin. There is a scenario where it just dwindles, and you know, Charlie was the man. Charlie was different. He could speak to donors and get them to, you know, do anything just about, because he was very smart and articulate and passionate. Charlie traveled 150 times a year. Like, Charlie was for like 10 years. So it's hard to replace a person like that. So there's a scenario where it dwindles, his death and all the passion around it begin to dwindle down, and everybody go their separate ways, and nobody can be true leaders, and it kind of dwindle. It kind of phase out, and other organizations take over. That's the less likely position, I think. And in the other position, that it's going to blow up. You know what I mean? People donate to Turning Point after Charlie's death.
Yeah,
I bet Elon Musk gave a crazy amount of money. He was at the funeral crying. You know, he kind of got choked up.
Yeah.
So I think they got an influx of sales. They got all these people coming out. I mean, people love Charlie. People want to be Charlie. All these new Charlies are popping up. And so there is a scenario that I think is going to get even more drastic. Meaning it's going to get bigger, and it's going to take different forms, where it's not central around one person. It'll be central around multiple people who can make it go forward. So that's what I'm hoping for, at least. But those two are the directions that it could go.
Have you guys had an internal meeting amongst leadership at TPUSA?
Well, I'm not in the leadership. I just partner with them at this point. I contract to do events with them and speak with them. Like, I don't work for Turning Point. I'm not like in their corporate office. But I'm sure they've had these conversations. I'm sure they've had. I know the guys at the top of the food chain, right? So I've been in communication with them. They chose Erica Kirk to be the COO. So CEO. Right. So they're making moves like this. But to be honest, I can't speak to exactly what they're talking about. But I'm sure this is a topic, right?
Well, I'm sure they're going to get a lot of money. And I know there's chapters popping up everywhere, and it's become a friend of mine. She lives up by Dallas, and one of her friends said that her kids went to the school asking to set up a TPUSA chapter at their school there in a smaller town outside of Dallas, and they got turned away and said, nope, not going to happen. And so now everybody in that town is just raising hell, protesting. Yeah. So it's like the protesting is came back, but for our team now, and it's hopefully going to drive to some positive change. You know,
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
we need it. We need something. We have so many people pointing out all the flaws in our system right now, but we need people to come up with solutions. And I keep voicing that, and that's kind of like what I'm trying to do with my platform is find people like that don't just call out what they see, but say, hey man, offer a solution. How can we do this? How can we change this? How can we just put a small little dent, you know? And I agree faith has a lot to do with a lot of this, but a lot of people don't have faith. They haven't had that moment like you had in college yet, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody has it at their own time, in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we reach the people that don't have faith and don't believe that somebody's watching every move that they make, even behind closed doors or keyboards? You know what I mean? So how do we reach those people? We need to come up with solutions. We need to come up with ways to reach out to these communities where, like you said, there's older, there's the older population's belief of the way things used to be. Maybe instead of trying to reach the youth, maybe we need to be reaching out and trying to like reach out to the grandma and grandpas out there who maybe have a misconception of the way things used to be in this country and the way they are now. And maybe you're encouraging your family to vote for the completely wrong side because of something that happened to you 40 years ago, or 50 or 60 years ago, in some cases. So, but anyways, I just thank God that there's voices like yours out there that are like willing to take on the brunt of all of the negativity. And I know you get like just splattered with negativity in your comments a lot because being a black conservative and a Christian in today's environment. So I just want to thank you again for what you're doing. I've been rooting for you for years now, and I'll keep rooting for you. And thank you for coming on my podcast. Do you want to let everybody know where they can find you? Anything you got going on?
Yeah, thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on the podcast, man. I really enjoyed, our meeting, and actually, I'm gonna be in Austin here soon. I'm gonna let you know because I want to come and do some of the stuff that we had talked about.
Let's do it.
But people can find me at the Officer Tatum. If you look up the Officer Tatum, you'll see me on every platform. Just make sure you got the one with the blue check mark or the check mark or the validation thing because there's a bunch of imposters. But you can find me on there. Anybody in the audience that want to support Charlie, we're making hat, shirts, and apparel. 100% of the profits is going to go to his wife, and we're going to have her. She can decide where she wants us to write that check to, but it's going to her. So if anybody want to support Charlie, you can do it through TPUSA website, or you can go with us. All of that goes to Turning Point and his family.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate you, brother. Be safe out there.
Yep. Thank you, brother.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?